Good morning. As far as strings attached to the land, we from the outset, and going back, I don't know how many years we've been talking about this village center, we would like to see the downtown of Barrington developed for the good of the community and for the good of our families and for good of businesses in the area. And so as far as furthering that, we've been trying to donate land to first the library and now to the town for whatever civic purpose they want to use it for, whether it be a municipal building for town offices, sorry I'm shaking, whether it be for a library, but that would be what the strings are that are attached. We don't want to see it sit idle. We don't want to see it turn into a sand pit. We don't want to see it used for some purpose that would diminish the value of the surrounding area for our neighbors, for the Kalos area and whatnot. But as far as what the strings are that attached, what it's going to be used for, it's going to be put before the voters to be used for some sort of community center, we'd hope. And if the town decides not to use it for such, we would take the land back. That's what the town would deem. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the last thing you said. If the town didn't go along with this in building and use of the center, then you would take the land back?
They can give it back to us, it's fine. Yep.
They give it back to you. So there are strings.
Could you repeat the question? Sure, he's asking if the town does not build, what would become of the land? Is that fair?
There would a municipal center, library, community center, or whatever.
We wouldn't want to see it sit idle. No, I guess does that. No.
Well, no. I mean, if we wanted to put in park things, okay, for the service of the town people with park. You know, it's like Summersworth has Millennium Park.
Yep.
It gets tremendous use and it really brings people together. And so maybe that's the appropriate use of the land, particularly given Brian's concerns about the expandability. I too was on the library design committee, and I know we heard all the problems with the land.
Yep.
You know, being able to expand parking spaces is very, very difficult to do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be talking from the floor. It's like a personal conversation. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. The question that I was just asking.
Sir, what is your name, please?
Hello? Oh, I'm sorry.
Put the microphone up.
Okay. Screw it. My name is Blaine Kimball, okay? Yeah, I was on the library committee with Brian here a few years ago. Thank you. That'll help everybody. You know, and my concern is, you know, what are we obligating the town to if we say, okay, we're going to accept this land and we're going to put $50,000 into engineering, and what happens now if the town decides, well, we don't want to put up a community building. We don't want to put up a library. What?
Turn the mic towards you. Yeah. So,
It's almost my mouth. Anyway, so I was just seeking clarification. What happens if the town decides not to put up this type of building, but instead wants to put it to some other use? And I suggested perhaps like Millennium Park that Summersworth has, which is a very well-used facility. It does bring the town together and all of that stuff, but it is not a community building and it is not a library. Okay, so I was just seeking clarification on that.
For whatever purpose that it's going to further, for whatever purpose it's going to serve to build a village center. I'm not sure if the park serves that. I think that somehow we have to put that in front of the voters. I've also have limitations because the land is mortgaged, and I have to when I donate the land, my bank has to allow me to do so, and therefore, if whatever the town decides to do or to what purpose they want to put it toward, it's not going to increase the value of the surrounding land, then my bank might allow me to donate. So there are some limitations that we do have, and so as far as me wanting to require my fellow taxpayers to spend an ungodly amount of money on whatever, that's not what the intention is at all. We are looking for some sort of development by the town to become partners with this idea of a village center, and I guess that's the only, that's the string. I don't know. that answers your question or not.
It's a string.
Well, our intention is to build a village center. It's, yes, absolutely 100%. And that's been our goal from the outset. What the town decides to do with the land after we donate it, that's going to be put before the voters and allow them to decide. If the town, in its infinite wisdom, decides to do nothing, then at least we had that debate. We had that open discussion with everybody. And if the town then decides, no, we don't want to do anything, we want to go in a different direction altogether, I do believe that the land would revert back to us, yes. But we're going to give the town the opportunity to have the opportunity to actually have a downtown in the village district, in the middle of a commercial center, with Caleb's, and the surrounding businesses. But that's our intention, that's our goal, that is our hope, and that's the kind of town that I want my kids to grow up in and have their kids grow up in someday. So.
Are you done speaking?
Yes, yes.
George Bailey, again, Mr. Chairman. So if the town decides to not to spend the $50,000, then the Swensons would not turn the property over to the town. Is that the agreement?
Yeah, we have, maybe to clarify this, I think we all have gotten discombobulated with what we're trying to accomplish. There is an issue where we need a new town hall. And next year when we, as a board, figure out where we think the right place and what it's supposed to look like, we'll bring that to the town and let you vote on it, whether it's Ramsdale or wherever, Redemption Way. There has been a lot of discussion and request to talk about a town center. I'm not so sure what a town center looks like. I don't know what that term means. Is it a park? Is it a community building with meeting space? I don't know. So that needs to be defined, and if that becomes defined, that's a separate project that too would come before the town. The third thing that's been talked about is a library, and the same thing. Where and what it is and how much it costs, whatever that comes up with, that also will come before the town. So you'll make the decision. You're welcome.
Next, state your name.
Jill, you want me to fix that?
What are you saying? Jill Hilfiger. I feel like people are really hung up on the strings that are attached with the donation of this property. And I think with any real estate transaction, there's usually some type of stipulation that's given. I know when we sold the land to TurboCam for $1 on the Clark Goodwill property, the stipulation was that they were going to build a manufacturing facility there. We didn't want them putting in tennis courts or a ball field. There was that stipulation. So I feel like people are hung up on that, and I just don't see it as unusual that there is some type of stipulation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Almost over again. When you engineer a developed plan, usually you have a goal in mind. You have a building, you have parking. We have none of that. And this is all proposed. Okay, so we're going to spend $50,000. We have nothing. The town hasn't even approved the town center. So we're going to spend $50,000 for engineering that we don't even have an idea of what we're going to put there. The same with what Ken had mentioned, $49,000 on the other article on the budget. We're going to spend $49,000 to design what? We don't even have a land to build a town hall. So we're going to be spending money designing what? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. Stephanie Dimke of Stephen James Road. As someone who has grown up in Barrington, I would really love to see what I consider the heart of our town contain our town hall, library, community center, future buildings. When I consider how much Barrington has changed and grown in the last 30-something years, it boggles my mind. My graduating 8th grade class had 40-something students in it. We were a community back then. I grew up with Lindsay's, Olivier's, Kelly's, Sunderland's, St. Jean's, Ramsdale's, Gibbs, Svenson's, McCarthy's, Swire's, Capiello's, Jake's, Page's, Clark's, Langevins, Harvey's, Grant's, Connolly's, the list goes on. Perhaps some of you recognize have these last names. Caleb's Country Store not only had Joel, but also had the only gas pump in town. The current library building housed not only the library, but the town offices, police station, gym, an ambulance bay, and Miss Sally Delow. And where our current public safety building sits, there was Gupto's Field, where the grown-ups in town would get together and play baseball on summer nights. It was easy to be a community back then because there were so few of us. But the town has grown, and I look at this article as an opportunity. If we put our town building in the center of Barrington, it will create a community space with a possibility of attracting new businesses that keep with the values and spirit of our town. Looking ahead, not knowing what the future holds, if the original purpose of the space was no longer needed, it could be rented or sold, a return on our investment. I will most likely be a lifelong resident of Barrington, being born here, raising a family here, and God willing, a long time from now, spending my last days here, giving Miss Polly Swain a run for her money. I care about the decisions we make here today and how they affect all generations in the future. If we're going to spend money on a new building, I want it to be a sound investment for the future of our community. Thank you.
Any other further comments? Seeing no further comments, moderator? Yes.
Ken Grant. I'd like to just point out that if you take this year's budget with warrant articles, when it comes to this is one of the articles, and compare it to just 2006. 2006's budget is 168% represented in this year's budget. In other words, you take 2006 budget and use a 168% multiplier, you come to this year's budget, which would include this warrant article. I'd just like to review how we arrived at this warrant article. The town was lobbied by petitioners, and did you get a copy of that petition? Did you actually take a copy of that petition in hand, John? With the signatures on it?
No, we never got one of the signatures. We saw, I think, 3 drafts of the article.
Okay. So you had 3 drafts and you took their article and pared down your article. Your article originally started as representing, if we take this land of 5 acres from the Christmas stub, if it's even givable, I understand that there's going to have to be a bank discharge involved with that 5 acres. That could, that could be a question maybe, and there are other things involved. But your article originally started out as $500,000 because you were wisely going to represent, if we took this land, what it would cost the taxpayers to put a road in there, and to put a road in that would be sufficiently enough to cover the traffic, a public road, not a driveway, a public road. So then there was the claim that you didn't need to do that by the petitioners because we were just talking about accepting the land. But if you look at this conceptual thing up here, supposedly there's going to be a bank to buy part of that lot. And I tried to get in touch with that bank to find out, are you going to pay for tearing down the old Hayes house? Are you going to pay for that road going in? If I'm a bank and I'm looking at that and saying, I'm going to put a public road in there and pay for all of that without having some share from the town, who seems to be driven as the center for the town is going to be an economic engine in the town. When the last time was government an economic engine? Think of the solar. That's been a multi-billion-dollar failure in this country. So I don't think this fairly represents what we should understand as cost to the taxpayer if we were to ever accept this gift of land. I don't think it fairly tells us at all, aside from the cost of the building. This is $50,000 to have another bunch of consultants come in to tell us what we need to do, what we can do with the land. And we've heard certainly enough already that this land may be, might be questioned whether or not it's usable. The other question is it even obtainable? But given those variables, The idea that we pared this down from I think, a reasonable $500,000 cost, certainly perhaps not exceeding that, but take into consideration the road, Route 9 itself. In the original article, it was said that there had to be some to improve access from Route 9. Do you really think that the highway department, the state highway department, would not require a widening of Route 9 going from the intersection of the lights over to where this access would be? This conceptual shows no turnout lane, I'm sure. Now, we can look today, what's going on there. There are brand new poles being put in there to service the TurboCam property. They're bigger, stronger poles to handle the three-phase. That's not going to be cheap, again, to set those poles back to make this Route 9 access. So $500,000, thinking about that, is not out of reason to think what this project could end up costing the taxpayer. For some who think that government is an economic engine, it is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Recognize Mr. Scrivner.
One clarification, Ken, on what you said. The $500,000 figure was not just the road. It included clearing the land and leveling the land. And actually, close to half of that number would have been in that. And Brian, Lindsay, and I have had discussions as to where the right number is for leveling and clearing that land. So that was all part of the $500,000 number.
All right, so then in my opinion, it would have to be more than that. Members, public, it would have to be more than that, because you think at $250,000, you're going to widen Route 9, you're going to build this public road in there, you're going to, and if you follow the concept of what people want to see down there, sidewalks, they talk about picnic tables, there's turnouts, things like that. There may even be a requirement by somebody to have guardrails in there for protecting the traffic in certain areas going in and out.
Okay, Ken, that's it. Next.
Hi, Rebecca Butcher, Newport Lake Road. Can you hear me all right? Rebecca Butcher. I just wanted to add a couple of things. One is my support for anybody who would give land to the town like this. I think it's really wonderful and forward-thinking, and I think we should really be grateful. And I just wanted to put my voice behind that, and to also put my voice behind that young lady's comments about what you can think of when you think about this town and how it can grow and be a place for families to stay for a long period of time. I also think it's rather short-sighted to see it as just a place for government operations, because I think there has been a lot of discussion in the town center planning several years ago around expanding downtown businesses that would involve some of this land as well. And that would certainly be an economic engine for this town that goes well beyond just government buildings. I also think it might be worth, if anybody has any additional information here today about those discussions with the town center planning that was done several years ago about alternative road access or thoughts about other development on this land on the right-hand side or the east side of the wetland where the number 12 is on that map. Because I think in past discussions, if I recall, there might be opportunities with that big piece of land open to the town for other landowners that abut that land to also see potential opportunities for merging land together to give the town even a greater opportunity. I think it's very short-sighted if we don't take this opportunity now and let the rest of planning unfold, and then bring to the voters in subsequent years other ideas and take those ideas as they come in the context at that time. Right now, this is an important opportunity and we should take it, and thank you very much.
Sir, keep your comments short.
It's one question for the board. Does anybody from the board discuss with the current owner of Cal Highway building where the town hall is now to purchase it? It's assessed at $496,000. Does the board approach that owner to purchase it as a town hall, as it is now?
We have had discussions with the current owner.
Turner?
I'd just like to make a comment about public-private partnerships. The place where TurboCam is now locating its new business was purchased by the town of Barrington for $300,000. Probably something on the order of another $60,000 or $80,000 of engineering went into that over time, including test pits, topos, and so forth and so on, and the site actually had something approaching 100,000 yards of gravel on it, all of which has value. We're glad to have TurboCam as a business partner in our town, but it does represent a significant investment by the town's taxpayers to support a public, a private entity. And one of the things that we can say for sure is that if we place public facilities on Ramsdale Lane, it will have no potential economic multiplier. So we need to think about this town 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. And I think that's worth considering in terms of what this place has as an opportunity for future economic development.
Thank you. Since we talked about this warrant article so long, I think we expressed all our opinions. The moderator declare that Article 13 appear on the ballot as read.
12.
I know, we were there.
I'm going to have ahead. Okay. See if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the fire truck capital reserve fund previously established. This sum will come from the fund balance and no amount be raised by taxation.